my peoples, what's up? My name is Jason and I'm from the Shelf Stories YouTube channel, and I'm here in the Dice Tower today to review BattleCon, Devastation of Indines. This one's from Level 99 Games and designer D. Brad Talton Jr. So this originally came out in 2013. Tom Vassell did a review at the time. He loved it. And this was before seals. This is how long ago this review first came out and the original edition first came out. As the years have gone on for this 1v1 card battling fighting game, this system has evolved. New additions, new modes, the game has grown and grown and grown. So what I have here is the 2020 4th edition box that I'm going to be reviewing. All sorts of changes have happened, but the same core gameplay still remains. So let me go ahead and show you everything that the new box has to offer, and I'll tell you what I think. So without further ado, let's go to the videotape. All right, welcome to the overview for BattleCon Devastation of Indines. I will talk about gameplay for all the different modes, but I did want to feature the changes for the 2020 edition in terms of production and just everything that they put in the box and the way it's organized. There is so much access and usability. The thought that went into that is really, really first class, so I wanted to show that off first. So there's the box, and let me go ahead and take off of that box. Yeah, this thing is pretty big, but as you can see, the fighters, and we have 30 plus fighters and 4 bosses, which are for the 1 vs many mode. You now get tuck boxes that are really neatly organized. So then before, you used to have cards with dividers, then you have like a separate bag or some kind of storage solution for tokens. Here, let's say I wanted to play with Eligor, so you look at Eligor, and then you open that tuck box, and you'd have everything that you need in order to play with him. So then you have your cards right there, but then you also have all the other stuff that he requires. Reminder card, power token to standee. If you want to just hand somebody a box and say, you know what, Eligor, bam, done. So little admin time getting the game set up because of the tuck box system. Very, very cool. Aside from all the tuck boxes, you also get plenty of paper, plenty of books. This might be the most important paper, which is the 4th edition transition guide, especially for players who are familiar with the game and are wondering what changed. This is a huge change. Guard is now a stat. Guard was kind of omnipresent and taking up a lot of space in the old cards at that white bottom space. Now it's just a stat, and it's pretty easy to tell, and there's a couple of other changes very clearly listed. Everything kind of makes sense. If you know Level 99 Games, their products tend to have these big rule sheets. So in this particular case, the big rule sheet is a quick start. So then if you want to get into it and you don't want to have all that overhead, you just pop this open. This actually does a terrific job of giving you 2 starting fighters and getting them started right away, which is a really, really neat kind of twist on the quote-unquote 2 rulebook system, rule to play, learn to play, and then your actual rulebook, which will be here. So neat twist on it, very, very well done. You have lore books. This I'm showing because it shows you the depth of care that this world has. So there are 3 world books. It has an ongoing story, which is relevant in the solo mode, but it also has bios of all the different fighters. So if you got 30 fighters, you got 30 bios. Man, a lot went into the crafting of this. Here's the mode guide. It has different modes, and I'll be showing you that in just a second. But let me get to the core gameplay first. All right, so now let's get into gameplay. And what I'm going to do is try to demonstrate as simple as humanly possible an individual turn called a beat of BattleCon. So I have 2 fighters over here. We have Eligor and Shektor. And what you see before you are the cards laid out. These are the cards that will operationalize on the turn. Going to be revealing these in a second. And each fighter has 2 separate discard piles. It makes it easier to recycle. I'll demonstrate that at the end of the turn. Before each battle, there's an anti-phase. So each fighter is going to have individual tokens. They're also going to have a universal resource called Force. And you can anti those in order to affect your turn in various ways. Eligor is going to set up for a defensive turn, so he is going to spend his token, which is +2 guard. So he's just going to go ahead and spend that. Again, this is the anti-phase pre-battle, pre-reveal. Schechter wants to get in the offense, so she is going to amp up her priority, which means that she is going to try to be more likely to go first. She is also going to spend her force, which is the universal resource, and speed herself up. She really wants to go first. Trash for +2 priority, so she really wants to go. Okay, once I've done the ante, I'm going to reveal the different cards. And the cards are pretty cool. What happens is each deck is constructed in such a way where you have a style and a base. So then they combo on each other. So like there's always going to be a card that leads and a card that supports. Jugular shot. So then Schechter is going to try to execute a jugular shot, and Eligor is going to try to set himself up with a retribution strike. From the name, you might be able to tell he's going to probably try to go second. So then we establish priority. Jugular has 4 priority and her buff, so she has a higher priority than Eligor. So then we check that, and then we check a lot of other stuff. There's stuff that happens before, there's stuff that happens after, but it all kind of boils down to who has priority and who's going to be able to get their effects off first. So then the jugular shot effect is going to be pretty simple. You check the range, and in this case it's 4 range, so there are 4 away, and is going to try to inflict 4 damage, 1 + 3. So then simple shot, 4 damage, but we are going to check Eligor's cards. He has armor +2, so he would block 2 of that damage, and it also hits his guard. Well, the guard ensures that he won't get stunned from it. So he will take the 2 damage, but guard is a stat that basically says he won't get stunned. If he had 0 guard, he would be stunned. He wouldn't be able to go at all. But because of the way that this character is constructed, a lot of defense, and he's going to be able to put up his guard. So then Schechter went, did her damage, and now I consult Eligor's card. When you are hit, then I get to close 6. Yep, you fell into my trap, said the spider to the fly, and then would be able to execute a pretty significant attack. Power 0 + 4, 4 damage. So then a reprisal happens, so that's what the retribution part here. So then that is a basic turn. You would discard these into the first discard slot. You would move the discard slot to the second, and then you would pick these up and put these in your hand. In that way, we are recycling cards so that you're not doing the same combo every single turn. Next turn, more cards. That is as simple as I can possibly make a turn of BattleCon, at least in the 1v1. All right, so now that you've gotten just a tiny taste of the 1v1, let's look at the 1 versus many mode. So Schechter and Eligor have decided to put away their differences and work together against the Dragon Berman. So I just wanted to show you, they have 2 types of card, but look at that illustration. Pretty gnarly, huh? And we have the standee right there. How the boss works, they work pretty much very differently, actually. A different kind of meta you have to get used to. So there are 2 types of cards, just like with the hero style and base, but in this case, the boss has platform cards and foundation cards. Platform cards, you know, there's a symbol on top, and they generally set rules for, anteing and priority. So the heroes are going to be able to know about half of what the boss is going to do from turn to turn. These would represent 3 individual attacks that the boss is storing up. Usually there is 1 more than the player count. So in this case, 2 players, 3 attacks. All right, so let's say Schechter is going to go, and she usually kind of has a lot of high priority here stuff anyway. So she's going to go make an attack. She would actually choose which one of these platform foundation pairs she wants to attack, with the idea that she wants to kind of take them out before the boss can do anything. So if she can manage to beat the guard of this platform, so the guard here is 4, so she would need to do 5 damage in order to take out this attack. Let's say she was able to do so, you would actually uncover this card and render it moot. So some of the cards, in this particular card, there is no effect called the break, but if there are some of the other cards, here you go. The break would just be an effect that takes place. You wouldn't be able to get the attack, but it would give a buff to some of the other platform effects that are happening. In this case, let's say this would get an increased guard of 7, so it'd be harder to break. When the enemy pops up, then they would reveal their card in particular, and then they would carry forth the effect. And the effects can be pretty nasty. So then I just wanted to show you this one. This diamond means that it's a multi-attack. So the boss is going to be able to execute multi-attacks and affect multiple people in range. So then the science, so to speak, of playing the boss is a little bit different. In a 1v1 game, it's just, I go, then you go. As a boss, you're going to be able to go, quote unquote, multiple turns. You're going to get multiple bites of the apple. But the heroes are going to be able to take out one or more of your attacks. So really, at least when it comes to this first boss, what you're trying to do is you're trying to kind of lay traps. You're going to try to guess which of the attacks that the hero is going to go for and lay a trap for them. So then you're going to try to get that break effect. Let's say they want to go for this one. You lay that trap here so that when you are ready to execute your attacks, you have them protected and you'll be able to kind of unleash furious hell as far as possible. So as they say, that is not all that you get. There is more to come. So we're going to return to the mode guide that I showed earlier in order to show the solo and cooperative quote-unquote campaign modes. And how the campaign modes work is that you have your solo adventure. In this case, it's Baron Angela's Crypt, the easiest one. And it has a series of setups. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 setups that you have to complete over the course of one playthrough. So it isn't a case where you just you play and then you stop. You have to beat all 7 dungeons in one go, maintaining your life, maintaining your discard piles and your resources, and try to beat all 7. So then I have it laid out here. And I'm using these kind of stand-in tokens. These are basically kind of like generic monsters. And you set them up depending on which level of the dungeon that you are going through. You are going to begin. Each campaign gives you access to items. So then you might have some easy items like consumables. But along the way, you can also get custom weapons and relics and offering you different powers depending on how much money you earn throughout the campaign or whatever the beginning of the campaign says. Very, very cool. So how does it work? So each monster, so let's say I'm fighting in the very first room, the zombie room, it has basically a priority list. So then I'm going to uncover certain tokens and I'm going to consult them for whatever they do in terms of attacking. So then I have 4 shambling zombies over here. I will turn over the numbers on their turn and I would see which attacks they employ. So for those who for the person who employed number 6, this would tell me basically what it does. A 4 power attack at 1 range. That would be over here, not in 1 range, etc., etc. You know how it goes. This is very easy. They don't really do much. But you have to beat this scenario in 5 turns in order to regain 3 life. They get harder and harder. The enemies get more and more complex. So the last boss in this particular dungeon has something they do particular for all 6, and they keep on going. A solo adventure, 3-player team adventure. There is so much stuff over here, and eventually you are going to get to something that intimidates me, the 4-player adventure, which is all sorts of stuff happening. Okay, now we are going to round out the picture as much as possible for BattleCon. You also get these different bases. So if you know BattleCon, everybody has the same bases, strike and dodge and all that. Now you have alternate ones. You have riposte and grip and rush. They all work a little bit differently, just to kind of vary things up to increase the variety that's possible in your fighter. This is very underrated, and I really like playing with these. These are the arenas. They set global rules for the arena itself. Normally, it's just there. Think of this as like an environment deck that will change things up. So as an example, you have the enchanted square. Randomly place an overload tile, which are these things. Plus defense and plus power and everything, and you can land on them and you get them a little bit more frequently, and you have to kind of position yourself to go pick them up. Fighting Festival, Trash 2 Force to gain different cards. So if you want to strike multiple times or shoot multiple times, play a distance game, you can do that too. There are tons of variations on environments, different fighters, different modes. My goodness, you get the whole kit and caboodle with BattleCon Devastation of Indines, the 2020 edition. So that was BattleCon 4th edition, the 2020 edition at the table. I had played BattleCon throughout my gaming life, 2013, 2014, 15. You know, you go to a game store and there'd be somebody there, playing, with their decks, and they say, hey, look, we're trying to wait until this bigger table gets together. Here you go, have a deck. Let's just play back and forth. 15, 20 minutes, bang, you're done. And I always enjoyed it. It was if I was going to play a 1-to-1 heads up, card-based combat game like that, it was probably going to be BattleCon. The back and forth movement was cool, and I always found the rule set a little bit more stable than like a Magic the Gathering, or like a collectible card game where there's just a billion cards. Here, fixed decks, you get into it. It was cool. Never invested as a lifestyle, because it was like, the actual round itself can be a little bit complicated, right? You have your ante and your reveal and, a start of turn and end of turn and stuns and guards. And there was just a lot to remember for a game that I likely would not have been a lifestyle game for me. And the terminology never helped. Why is a beat called, or why is a round called a beat? Why is it called ante? Why is it just called starter phase or whatever it is, or pre-phase? A lot of like different terminological things happening, a little bit of a crunchy rule set. And those things created a situation where if I was kind of a neophyte player, I would likely get smoked by a experienced player who generally isn't holding back. Why are you going to play if you're going to just sit there and hold back, right? So I always liked it. It wasn't a part of my life. However, this new edition adds so much more. Cleans some things up. Guard is now a regular stat, which I thought was a really great change. Cleared out that bottom half, the white space a little bit. Cleared it out, made it a little bit easier to understand. And the addition of the different modes, excellent. Especially the solo and co-op. I'm a solo player for the most part and a cooperative player. And I wouldn't say that those modes are like blow away. They're not the types of modes that are like, oh, you must buy this. It is now a wonderful solo co-op game. At the end of the day, when you're playing a solo and co-op, you're playing against random chance. You're playing against a die roll, basically, 1 to 6, right? You're uncovering those tokens and you're reacting to whatever the monster is. And that's never going to be as fun as having another person, an opponent at the table, trying to get into their heads and figure out what they're doing, and have that satisfaction of like, yeah, I got it. You put down scissors, I got your rock, and I beat you and I got the good combo. Playing against like a random chance is never going to be as fun. However, I just said that this game shines as a lifestyle game, and it becomes a lifestyle game when you become really invested in your deck or decks. The solo mode for me as a solo player allowed me to do that. Allowed me to take Eligor. Eligor is one of my favorites. They're kind of a reprisal, vengeance type character. Simple enough for me, and go through the different scenarios. And once you're through the scenarios a couple of times and you begin to get those higher achievements, you'll learn the deck. And that is where this game completely and utterly shines. I love it. And then there's the other modes too. Like I mentioned in the overview, the arena mode is cool. I'm not just playing the same different static board over and over again. I'm playing like with some wrinkles. I don't want to play with them every time, but they're good to kind of mix things up into the 1v1. The alternate cards are cool if you want to mix up the characters. I don't, but it's there in case you want to have a different flavor with your basic character. The Overlord, I can only give impressions of the Overlord. I've only seen it playing twice. One time I gave it to a friend and they played the Overlord, then I played the Overlord. I lost both matches, which is a good sign because it means the Overlord is 1-1. I don't know if it's back and forth. If the Overlord is balanced, I can't really mention more about balance. However, what I will say is the Overlord does give a different flavor. It is a little bit more reactive. It's a little bit more like, I have a lot to do, a lot to think about on my turn. I'm not just thinking about my one little character. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's a draw, but I like that it's there, and I like that the game is kind of messing with the meta, experimenting with different ways to break into this thing. And also, I like to mention theme. You're not here necessarily for its theme. However, the world building, the fact that I can go into the book and read the bios, and like there's 30 some odd bios and a little story that goes along with whatever I'm doing adventure wise. Is that necessary? No, but it's just indicative of the level of craft that went into the box. I also saw the production. The game knows it's complicated, so it's trying to do as much as possible to lower that barrier of entry as much as possible to get more people in. So I had always liked BattleCon just fine, but I had those barriers to diving in. Those barriers are now gone. The solo co-op is not the best way to play BattleCon. However, it unlocked the best thing about this game, which is getting to know the deck, getting to know a fighter or two or three or whoever, and getting that feeling that when you sit across from a player of any skill level, really, that you have a chance because you have had that time. And with me as a solo player, I was able to get that time with a couple of decks. Now I feel like I can sit down and say, okay, let's just go for it. Really, really great feeling to have that available to me and to have all those fighters available, 30 plus fighters, to have the one versus many available. I haven't been able to bust into it myself, but my initial plays, it seemed positive. So another mode there, the alternate arenas. Wow, so much stuff in here. We're going to go Seal of Excellence. We're going to go 8.5 on this one. I am now invested, and I invite anyone who is a BattleCon player, if you see me around, let's go ahead, take out a deck, and go to town. I would really, really love it. So if you like what you heard, please visit me at my YouTube channel, Shelf Stories. Shelf Stories is where I engage in above-the-table conversation about my interest, about mental health and culture and history, and it's also where I engage in stories. This game has so many stories as a part of it. I'm a huge lore dork as well, so I enjoyed reading what was in there, and I also have a lot of book chat with other fantasy novels and stories on my channel as well. So this is Jason reminding you, if you could change your mind, you could change the world. So until next time, later, everybody.